Hello everyone, this is Reza from RADACAD, and today in this video I'm going to show you how to check for errors, how to handle errors before that happens, how to catch those errors and have a proper message as an exception reporting in your Power BI report. Let's check that out. Here I have a Power BI file which I'm going to show you an example of how the errors happen and how to handle it. I'm connecting to an Excel file. In this Excel file I have one single table, a customer table, which you can see it has few columns like these. Now if I go to transform data, it opens the Power Query Editor window. In the Power Query Editor window, I can do all my transformations. If you are interested to learn more about Power Query, go ahead and look at my other Power Query videos and articles. So here you can see that I have all my columns, and even at the top of Power Query it shows me a message like this, that this green bar that shows that I have no errors, everything is fine, or if I have errors it will show it to me. However, in this example you see that everything seems to be fine. Now when I say close and apply, let's say I've done all my transformations I wanted, then I say close and apply. Power BI will go through transformations and apply it on the entire dataset. In Power Query Editor it works only on the preview of data. Here it works on the entire dataset, and here I get an error, right? You can see that I have like 80,000 rows and 7 of those have been error rows. And I can use this option to go and view errors in Power Query Editor window and things like that. But I'm talking about a workable solution that you publish to the Power BI website, because if you have something like this published into the Power BI website, you won't get this message in Power BI website. Depends on the error, you might just get a checkbox that says this has been published, this has been refreshed, everything was fine, and you have no idea that there was errors behind the scene. Again, as I said, depends on the error. Now let's see what is happening here, why we have those errors. So usually when you click on view errors in Power BI desktop, it builds a new query in Query Editor referenced from the original query. And in this case, that referenced one from original query will just show you the error rows, which is good to see it in the Query Editor. So I'll go to Query Editor. Now I see usually something like this. So I have my original table and I have a table that says errors in that table, which is referenced from that table but only shows error rows. So these are rows that has an error, and if I go further to the right, I'll see that there is a column here sorry, there is a column here that calls errors. Probably the values was something that I couldn't that Power BI couldn't convert it to a proper value, so I got error. If I click on the error, it will navigate to the error, but if I click on a cell that contains the error, down below it shows me some message. Like for example, it shows me that the value was like this, so it couldn't convert it to a date, or the value was like this in A, it couldn't convert it to a date, or it was like this, again it couldn't convert it to a date, right? But this is the developer view of the errors. Let's say you've published this report, you created this report, you published it, and the report is in the production environment. It is under schedule refresh every single day, and then you get an error like this. What happens from the user point of view? User will not see any of these at all. User will see that data, as you see like this. They will see this data, they will be able to do all of their visualization things, but some part of that data will be missing because those errors will be converted to null or blank, let's say, in Power BI environment. So these rows, in fact, we will have blanks instead of them in Power BI, right? Depends on the error, there are different actions happening. Now, how to fix that? How to have proper output, show the user that there was errors in the data refresh, and these where the errors are coming from, and have it as an exception reporting for a Power BI report. That's my goal to show you in this video. So let's check it out. I'll do everything from the beginning here, so you can see what is the process. So I'll delete the error rows created query. I'll just remove that, and I'll remove the group or folder created with that as well. So I'll do everything from beginning so you can see that. So this is my customer table. I'll call it dim customer original. And the reason that I'm calling this is that I want to have two outputs of this table. One output is with error, another output is without error. So what I'll do is I'll do it this way. I'll get a reference from this table. It is called dim customer original. This is going to be the one without error. So what I'll do is I'll call it just dim customer. Now, when it is referenced from that table, that means that if something happens on that table, this will be always getting those changes. So now that I have this, I go to that column. In this case, it was birth date column. I go to this column and I say remove rows, remove errors, right? So under remove rows, I'll say remove errors. That means that those rows that caused error, I don't want them to be in this dataset. So remove errors. So this would be a clean table. It won't have any errors or issues in it. I would create another reference from this table, from customer original table. And this one, I would call it error rows. It is actually the same way that Power Query automatically did that. So I just wanted to show you what's happening behind the scene if you want to create that yourself. Now that I have the error rows, in this one, I just want to keep the errors. So what I'll do is I'll go to birth date column again, but this time under keep rows, I'll select keep errors. So this will only keep those rows that has errors, right? So I have two tables. The table without errors, the table with errors. I don't really need this customer original table to be loaded anymore. I've explained in another video what is this enable load and what are scenarios you might disable it. This is one of those scenarios. I don't want this to be loaded into Power BI because I'm using it into other tables and I have all of those data into two other tables, right? So these are my two tables. Now, if I close and apply, I will not have any errors in the customer table. However, I would still have errors in this table, which is my customer error rows table. So I have to handle those errors in some way. I have to get the information related to those errors. Those information, as you have seen here, was information related to like what is the original value that caused the error and what is the message, right? So this information, I want to get that part in my report as an error exception report. So everyone go and see that, and they can even go to the data source and fix it themselves, right? So the way that we can do it is using a very useful keyword in Power Query called try. So let me show you that how it works. So I'll go to add columns, and I'm in error rows table. I go to add columns. I add a custom column. A custom column gives me ability to write an M expression, a Power Query script expression. So I'll go add that. Now in this expression editor, what I'll do is I'll say try. Now try can try an expression, and if that expression works perfectly fine, try will have the value as the output. If it doesn't, then try will give me error details. So I'm saying that try that birth date, because that is the column that caused the error. So right, so try birth date, just this. And let's call it custom for now, that's okay. I click on OK. Now you can see that this custom column has a record it doesn't have an actual error, it has a record. But when I click on the record, and don't click on the record itself, click on a blank cell, because if you click on a record, it will add an extra step and navigate to that record. You have to delete that step after navigating to it to go back. So clicking on a blank area in that cell usually is better. So this record has two things: has error, which says that this output has an error, and if it has an error, then what is the error value, right? So we know that it has an error, so the important part for us is the error part of it. To expand to that area, always you can click on this. As you have seen, the has error doesn't really have anything for us to get, so only error is the important part of it, so I'll select that. It will expand to that, but this time error is also another record. So we have a record under a record, right? And when I click on that, you see that these are the information for that error row. So it has three fields: the reason for that error, it's a data format error, the message for that, we couldn't parse it as a date, and the details for that. So these are all information that I would definitely love to have in my report. So what I'll do is I'll expand it. I say use original column as a prefix. That means it would be called error.reason, error.message, error.detail, which is fine. And then select all of those columns, click OK. Then I would have all of these error details here in my table as columns. So here you can see I have the error detail, what was the exact value coming from there, the reason, and the error message. So I'll have all of these information. Now the last step after doing all of these is that I have to go and remove the original birth date column, because as long as that is there, I still might get that error problem and things like that. So I'll go and remove that column, and I already have all the information related to that in my error details. So I'll remove that column, and then I say in the home tab, close and apply. And this time I won't get an error because I've already handled the error. All my error rows are going to a separate table, an error rows table, and I've got all the details for those errors, so I won't really have an error as the output. It will just load them all here. So here you see that I don't have any errors. I have two tables, as you can see, customer error. I can use the customer table for my normal reporting, analysis, visualization, anything I want. I can use customer error rows for my exception reporting. Now let me show you an example of exception reporting. Let's call this one exception report, right? In my exception report, I can start with like how many rows I have as a error rows. So for that, I will put a card visual here with a count of a field. Let's say customer key, doesn't matter which field because I'm getting the count anyway. So count of customer key in this case, and I can call this to be, so instead of category label, let's put a title. I would say count of errors. And you can make it center, make it bigger, all those kind of things about like making this a proper visualization. So this is showing me that I have 7 errors. Now I can have a table visual here to show the details of these errors. I can actually bring all of those 3 fields related to error, which is error reason, error detail, and error message, right? And I can make this slightly bigger. So this would be useful for my users when they come and see that there is an error. And usually this number is a number that you put in your dashboard somewhere else, that you can see that there are errors. Then you would come here and you see the details of the error. It's always useful to have a unique key from that row also to be showed here. So I can bring customer key. In this case, not count of customer key, let's say just the normal customer key. So in this case, it shows me that for these customers, I have an error, and the reason is that we have this column, their birthday column has these values with the data format error that cannot be parsed or converted as a date value. You can also build other visualization to make it even nicer exception report. So this way, you still have your Power BI report. It is working perfectly fine. But you also have a page with exception report that user can go there, see that there's an error. They will go to that Excel file as a data source they have access to. They go and change it. And then in the next refresh, that row will be removed from this because it won't be error row anymore. Exception reporting is an important part of a Power BI report. You don't want to miss your valuable information because there was an error in the data transformation stage. If you like this video, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have weekly videos of Power BI and AI. Thank you.